Today I'm trying to finish up modifying the playlist that I've created before, and I'm just trying to, really focus some attention on the thumbnails that I use. And, before I would create these videos and just upload it and just let YouTube pick the best image, and it's not the right way to go. If you want to stick out, you got to have some nice thumbnails. Unfortunately, really, I didn't know this before, so I didn't take any high quality photos. All I did was, even if I took some photos, it would be with a bad camera, like something like a cell phone camera, some outdated cell phone technology, or even worse, I didn't have any. So basically I went through and just took a couple of screenshots, and we're going to be editing that. Not the best way to do it, but that's what we're going to be doing. So I have some photos loaded up in here, and I may split this up into a couple of videos. We'll see. I want to edit these as quickly as possible, but I want them to look nice as well. So these aren't going to be extremely quick edits just because they're pretty terrible photos. So all I'm going to do is, first things first, I'm just going to click auto. This photo is actually not a photo. You can see just by all the distortion that most likely, well, not most likely, this is definitely from a GoPro. So all I want to do is just increase the exposure a little bit. I'm focusing in on this car. That's what I want for it to stick out. I'm just gonna play with the contrast a little bit, just get it to pop a little bit more. Shadows, I think that's about good right there, and just decrease the blacks ever so slightly. Now for this type of photo, what I've decided to do is I really want this gray color to kind of stick out. I don't want any other colors anywhere. The gray color, well, I wouldn't really say any other color, like the reds. I'm okay with the taillights and that kind of stuff, but all these excessive greens that are popping up around the windshield and the aquas, the blues, I want all that stuff gone. So what I normally start doing is I go into colors over here, and I'll go into color mixer. Now the color mixer contains all the different colors that you can kind of look at. So this pink one, as you can see, the taillights are shifting a little bit, does some like bleed. I can remove all that. So just desaturate it completely. The purple gives a lot of purple from my other Corvette right here. As you can see, it's casting a shadow on the silver one. If I increase it, so I want to get rid of that too. Same thing for the blues. Although my blue Corvette is blue, I really, I'm trying to focus in on this car, so I'm going to just strip the blues out completely. For these aquas, as you can see, it's popping up right in here inside the rear windshield, so I just want to get rid of that as well. Greens, I know it's going to take away from the outside, and to tell you the truth, we may remove those because it's going to look a little weird if we just strip out the greens completely. So I may change the color a little bit, so shift the hue and then desaturate it ever so slightly. I see there's still some stuff going on over here, which we'll fix pretty soon. Yellows, same kind of principle. I don't want to completely eliminate them just because they do give some coloration on the outside, so I'll keep those ever so slightly and just remove the rest of it from these walls. The browns, or the orangish, I don't want to completely take them out. I want to desaturate them ever so slightly, but I still want to keep them in there just because of the taillights. And then the reds, I'll just keep those as is. Now I want to bring attention to this car, so I'm just gonna put a little bit of a vignette, and that's under effects, and I may even do a lot of vignette, to be honest, because I don't need anything else over here. So just before it starts actually imposing on the car itself, I'll stop. So if you just look, I think just about right there. And I'm going to be adding some more black around. But now that this preliminary step is done, like I said, I like to do this stuff really fast. I'm going to switch over to the brush tool, which is right here. And the first thing that I'll do is I want to get rid of any of the color that I don't want inside of my picture. So once the brush tool is selected, you can scroll down to saturation, move the saturation all the way down, and then using the brackets, you can increase or decrease the size or drag the size right up here. I just start basically painting away any kind of colors that I don't want. So I don't want any colors up here on the walls or over here. So there's that yellowish. I just want to remove all that, as well as this windshield, and to tell you the truth, from most of the car itself. So I'm just painting over everything like this, the floor, just make sure there's nothing on the floor. And then in between here, there's some red and some natural yellow, so I'm going to leave that just to kind of make it look a little bit interesting, just so it doesn't look completely desaturated. And again, this is just my preference on what I want to do with this car, with this kind of photo. So I'm just trying to desaturate as much of this stuff as possible without actually, well, went a little bit overboard on the tree right there, but without actually sacrificing. I don't want it to look black and white completely either. So right here, I don't want to completely take out the blue 100% or the coloration out of this. So what I'll do is I'll just click out of it, click back into the brush, go down to saturation, not bring it down 100%, but just a little bit down, and then I'll just focus on this windshield just to take the greens out of the windshield and a little bit on the side over here, maybe even the roof. So right about there. So it looks pretty natural right here, and I'm pretty satisfied. I'll create one more brush, and this time I'll bring the saturation down again. I'll increase the diameter, and again I'll go back over everything just to make sure all the color was indeed stripped out. I think I went over this tree a little bit too much, and there we go. Everything that I wanted to strip out color wise, to me it looks like it has been. So now I have this car and have this car, I have all this stuff, and it's still not really focusing in on this car. So I'll click new brush again, and you can see all the brushes that you've created right here just by scrolling over them to see what you've worked on. But I'll create a new brush, and this time instead of saturation, I'll bring the exposure almost all the way down. And I like to have a little bit of a bigger brush and then just start painting away all these spots over here that just, no, I really don't care if they're visible. I just want to bring attention to the car itself. Just start painting away. Try not to do it all with one swing like I just did, because what ends up happening is if you do paint away a little bit too much, then once you press Ctrl Z, you're going to be going all the way back. I just want to make this a little bit darker. Maybe even the garage up here. So let me increase the brush size, diameter. Maybe just go a couple more times like that. Pretty satisfied. It looks like it's popping out. Go over it like that, and looks pretty good. Get a little bit on the right side. There's really not much we can do because the photo itself is really not that great. But just to kind of give you a before and after, this is what we started off with. This is what we're going to be ending with. So let's move on to the next one. This one is also, it's a little bit blurry. I mean, it's probably the best thing that I could have gotten, but there's really not much else that I could work with. So again, I'm going to click on the edit tool, click auto to give me some auto generated stuff. Maybe just play around with the exposure right away. All I want to really focus on is this area right here where I'm pointing to, which I'm pointing at the coolant temperature sensor, which is right behind this alternator. So I just want to make sure that this stuff looks pretty good. So all that stuff seemed like it was pretty well adjusted. All I want to do right now is increase the texture a little bit and increase the clarity to make sure, just so it looks a little bit sharper, and then increase the sharpness as well. I'll also do the dehaze to remove this like haze that looks like it's covering the whole image, and then I'll do some noise reduction just because if we zoom in, because it's just such a terrible photo, or actually screenshot, you can see how much just grain and all kinds of weird stuff is going on. Also, once we start doing some other stuff, we're going to want to do some color noise correction, possibly. So we'll see. I'm going to go back to the other photo as well and just real quickly increase the texture as well on it and just bump up the clarity ever so slightly and do a little bit of dehaze just to make this pop even a little bit more. So before, after. All right, for this one, the last thing that I have left to do inside the edit is the vignette before I actually move to the color mixer. And in the color mixer, I want to strip out, you can see all these like purple lines going across. So if we increase and decrease it, let's just get rid of all of that stuff. It's unnecessary. I do like the reds, so I'm going to keep the reds. The blues, it's just covering way too much of the photo. Let's get rid of that. The aquas, let's get rid of that. Greens, if there is any, let's get rid of that. The yellows, there is a little bit of yellow right here, here, and here. And I kind of want to, like I said, I don't want it to look completely desaturated, so I'll keep the yellows and actually increase the saturation ever so slightly, as well as the oranges, just because my arm is orange. I don't want to go crazy with it, so what I'll do is just bump it up ever so slightly and decrease the luminance. The reds, I do want them popping out, so I'll increase them a little bit, make them ever so slightly darker, and there it is. Good with this. Now we move on to the brush tool. Again, same principle, desaturate, bring the saturation all the way down, paint away any areas that you don't want to be saturated. So you can see these are the areas that I'm painting. Up here, I don't want to get my arm. And then I'll start painting away on the engine itself. So any of these areas that have this extra yellow going on around the alternator, like there's no reason why there should be yellow right here. Can't really even zoom in anymore just because it's a low quality photo. And we'll just paint away those sections. Maybe a little bit over here. Get rid of all that. There's no reason why there should be any color on this. Maybe it is dirty, but I don't want to show dirt. This aluminum line, there's no color on aluminum lines, it's just silver. This is just the first time we're going to be desaturating. We're going to go over this one more time with another brush and just increase right here, just remove anything else. So let's take a look. All looks pretty good to me. Get as much of it as possible out of the picture on the first attempt, and now we're going to create a new brush. Like I said, the quickest way for me is just click out of the brush, click back in the brush, and you're in new brush mode. If you need to go back to your existing brush, you can just click on this little blue dot, and you're going to go back into the existing brush. But we don't need to. We need to create a new brush, so I'll just bring the saturation down again, increase the diameter, and just go over the same spots again, just because I guess Lightroom is making adjustments one step at a time. It doesn't want to overdo it for you either. So there we go. Just getting rid of anything that doesn't need to have color in it. So bring it back down and just go over the alternator one more time, a little bit more detail. That section right there. And I mean, just look at this portion right here, for example. That's what it was like before, and that's what it's like right now. Remove the color from this. Make sure that I get the remainder of the color from this line. And I'm pretty satisfied. Good so far. Now you can leave it right here or not. What I like to do is I just want to bring attention back to this area over here. There's too much stuff going on over here. So I'll reduce the exposure and just start painting away all these sections that I don't really care about. So increase the diameter a little bit. Paint, 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 and I think that's about good. I'll do one more brush. I'll decrease the exposure again and just go over a few of these spots that, like for example, the window. I don't really care if the window is visible at all. So I'll paint a little bit more on those sections. So it's up here. There's some just randomness going on right there. And at the same time, you can actually kind of make the blacks stick out a little bit more just by going over them with the exposure tool. So just a couple of swigs here and there to reduce the diameter ever so slightly. Just do this one. Do a little bit right there, maybe too much there. And there we go. Now I do want this to pop out a little bit more, so I'll do yet another brush. Paint over this section, maybe paint over all of this, to be honest. Just any kind of metal portions right here, maybe even this Corvette. And then I'll start increasing the exposure. So maybe not so much, just a little bit, make a little bit contrast. Do a little bit of dehazing, increase the texture ever so slightly, and the clarity, increase the sharpness. And I'm pretty good with this. I'm gonna go over the Corvette one more time and increase the exposure ever so slightly, just making that pop out a little bit more. But there it is, I'm done with this photo. That's what it looked like before. That's what we ended with. This looks like a photo that I could use for Instagram. This really does not. So I think this would pop out. I don't think this will. Go back over here. I just like to do Control-C a lot of the times to grab the settings. Control-V. Most of the stuff is already done because I'm going to be focusing kind of on the same stuff, the yellows, all that stuff. I still like to click Edit and click Auto just to see if it will correct it any further, and I'm good. I can just start doing the brush tool. If you're wondering where I do Control-C, I just literally click on any of the images down here that I've done, and just do Control C, or you can right click, or actually not right click, but in these little three dots over here, click copy edit settings, which tells you Control C, and then paste that in settings is just Control V. So you're just pasting it onto the new image. So if you can see, most of the settings have been adjusted automatically. So maybe there's a little bit too much yellow, so I may just bring it down ever so slightly. And time to start working with the brush tool. So again, I'll do my saturation all the way down and just start painting away any of these areas that I don't want any kind of color. Like I don't need this color over here. It's not part of the image whatsoever. It's going to be gone anyways, especially once I start reducing the exposure even more. I'm going to be just removing that stuff from my shirt as well, and start working a little bit on the engine, just getting it the first time, removing any of the coloration. I know there's probably some yellow in that ticket, but I don't want it on there. Go over here to the alternator, remove all that stuff, remove everything from here, from there, from the aluminum line. I'm debating whether to even keep this yellow. I don't like the way it looks, so I'm just gonna go ahead and get rid of this yellow. It's probably not even that kind of yellow. It's just finishing this up. First time, go back through it again with one more brush, and reduce the saturation. Go over everything again. See, now it's picking up 100%. Removing all the colors selectively. I mean, not all the colors. Like, I'm keeping all the reds. I do like the reds inside here and certain yellows, but everything else is gone. Doesn't have to be 100%, but I think this looks pretty good. What about this red runoff right here? There we go. Now I create a new brush, increase the diameter, decrease the exposure. Again, this is going to be a bigger brush, and just start painting away any of these areas that I just don't want attention on. Putting myself over here. So I just want the engine really sticking out. That's the first one. Maybe decrease the exposure even more. Second one, decrease the exposure about the same way and start painting again. And start bringing everything kind of in line of what I wanted. Kind of keep that a little bit. Okay, and then again, I'll go over some of the blacks with maybe not that much exposure, just a little bit down, just to make them look like they're popping. Okay, I think we're good. Maybe this area right here, right there, and right there. And I don't think I need to do any kind of exposure increase anywhere. Maybe we could in a few of these spots, the metal spots. Get them to really kind of pop out. Maybe even this Corvette. Maybe that area, that aluminum. That right there, there. Maybe this thing right here. That looks a lot better. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Pretty happy with it. Before and after, we're pretty much done with this. That's the before, that's the after. This is something that I'd be posting on Instagram. We'll do one more today. We're gonna go ahead and start with auto, paste the settings, because I'm gonna be doing pretty much the same kind of setting. Well, maybe not, just removing the blues. So I'll go ahead and paste it and then bring back the blues. And then remove, because there's a lot of blues everywhere, you can see. So I'll remove them selectively from the car itself right here and remove all the yellows from the walls. Okay, let's see, how about this? Starting to look super tan right here. Too much yellows. We kind of still want to keep the yellows up a little bit. All right, I think that's pretty good. Time to move to the brush tool. Let's start off with saturation, bring it all the way down, and I'm starting on the walls. Okay, now keep going over my arm. Now that that's done, we'll do another brush, one more saturation or desaturation, and we'll go over everything this time, just finishing everything up. It's looking a lot better this time. I'm gonna even do a little bit right there. Increase the size. Remove all this stuff. It's going out. And I think I'm pretty much done. I don't really see any other areas where I could be removing any additional color that I want to remove. Maybe a little bit more on the inside right here. There we go. Okay. Now that that's removed, then just want to make sure my vignette, I can actually increase my vignette a little bit more before I start painting away the exposure. So decrease the exposure. I don't need this window over here at all. So I'm just gonna go at it. Just right there. There we go. I think that's pretty good for the first time. Second brush, bring the exposure down. Start going again. Decrease some of this exposure around here. Don't need any of that. And then I'm going to be just darkening some of these blacks inside the engine. Like this thermostat. It just makes it look a little bit better. I'm just going to increase the exposure ever so slightly. I made it a little bit too dark. And then focusing on some of this metal portion around right there, there, and increase the exposure. I think I'm good. I think that does what it needs to be doing. So it goes from this to that. All right, I think I'm pretty good. I think you guys have seen enough examples. I am going to be going through all the other ones, so I guess next time we'll do these 4 images. Maybe not. This is the same image, so let me just go ahead and delete this one automatically so that I don't even start doing it. So we have these 4 images, and we're just going to be editing those. And then the third video, we're going to edit these 4 images. Pretty drastic when you're looking at going from these kind of images to something like this. This definitely seems like something that I could be posting on Instagram, or what I'm going to be using them for is YouTube. So I will see you guys next time.